The trailer for The Bride dropped, and Maggie Gyllenhaal might just be the fresh face behind ushering in a new era of feminism in cinematic history, because clearly her version of Frankenstein's bride is nowhere near docile. Rather, the dead woman turned monster is a force to be reckoned with, and from what the trailer reveals, she threatens to challenge societal norms entirely. We've had a couple of depictions of Frankenstein's bride, but let me tell you why this one's going to be the wildest ever. For starters, Jessie Buckley would not be remembered as Frankenstein's bride. She is a person in and for herself, with a distinct identity which she does not wish to compromise even as a monster. In the 2026 movie, which is rightly titled The Bride, we are going to see the story from her point of view. Now that's a clear departure from what the 1935 film titled Bride of Frankenstein, where Elsa Lanchester as the creature's partner had this formidable appearance but did not speak except for a few hisses and screeches while rejecting the monster. That worked perfectly back then because no matter how threatening women came off, their voice was not something worth paying attention to. This is the very thing Maggie Gyllenhaal is changing with her rendition of the story. She has not just given Buckley a ton of dialogues, but has clearly allowed her agency and the power to speak for herself. However, Maggie is not going to portray the bride as a noble figure. She is meant to be someone who is an anti-hero in the eyes of the people, wreaking havoc, holding people at gunpoint, dancing crazily, and not once being apologetic about it. For the first time ever, we are going to witness an adaptation of Frankenstein's bride, where the former is her partner. Partner in crime, love, death, and a weird unspoken equality. The trailer did not waste time in establishing Buckley as an unconventional Gothic woman with black nail polish and cigarettes between her lips, who appeared to be in some sort of distress. Her fall from the stairs was no accident. She was murdered in cold blood, as is evident from the shadow of the man standing there at the top of the stairs. Clearly, she was pushed down, and her words that she did not want any of this gives us an idea the woman was probably killed because she did not care to give her opinions. Or maybe she refused to bow down. Now, there is this particular glimpse in the trailer where we hear the bride yell that the monsters are going to stand against the corrupt. Add Frankenstein's creature words, "This world is a black hole," a dead body covered in newspaper, police chases, and protest graffiti. We are clearly in to witness a political rebellion, set in the 30s, where the bride takes the front stage. You know, there's a feeling I can't shake off. The shot where we see her lying on the table, where she has just come back from the dead and is alive again. Jessie looks like she's a little too alive to take on the world, and that the world is definitely ready for her. That spark in her eye, even as undead, is unmissable. She is going to be a microphone for all these people who have been buried. The death here is symbolic. The bride has raised an army of all the people whose ideas and claims have been intentionally killed off for them to say whatever they want. She is more than being a monster or lover because she has a mission to fulfill. Interestingly, when Maggie chalked out this character, it became personal for her. The director recalled the concept for this movie stemmed from a tattoo. Yes, you heard that right. She saw the Frankenstein's bride being tattooed on her person's arm in a party, and then it struck her. She had never watched the 1935 movie, so Maggie went back, watched the film, and realised how desperately the bride needed to have autonomy. She realised that Lanchester's character had a very toned-down sense of power, but to even have it in the first place was unusual. And it's the unusual moment that convinced Maggie to churn out an entire movie. Ideally, the bride is born out of a dichotomy. On one hand, we have Christian Bale as the monster, who is a kind yet lonely man and seeks a girlfriend. He then brings back this woman from the dead with the help of Dr. Euphranius, who is played by none other than Annette Bening, and hopes to form a bond with her. But what about her? Her needs and agendas. Maggie Gyllenhaal tapped into the gap and created something which I'm sure will blow our minds. She revealed how she sees herself in Buckley's character. She had a lot to say, and like a lot of people, had her mouth shut. The bride mirrors every such person who has been in those shoes and has perished before they could figure out who they were. Now, with a monstrous woman endowed with a new life, Maggie wishes to explore the question of selfhood, something which has been mostly viewed from a male perspective. However, the bride is not going to be typically preachy. It's oozing with punk energy. For the filmmaker, punk is something that does not easily fit in the box, and that's what the bride is going to be. Filled with high energetic songs like Susie and the Banshees' cover of Iggy Pop's The Passenger, and dance numbers, the movie is leaning towards a chaotic vibe. Not gonna lie, Jessie Buckley did remind me of Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. I guess it's the black inked heart on Margot's face that made me unconsciously draw the parallel. Plus, though the bride comes off as a passenger this time, it's actually her driving the story forward. Apart from the palpable punk tone in the 1930s Chicago, the movie is seeped in Gothic neo-noir style, and Maggie has done her homework well. The bride is heavily influenced by classics like Badlands, Metropolis, Bonnie and Clyde, and Wild at Heart. But the director has definitely kept room for her own vision to flow. And of course, we have Mary Shelley's original novel as an inspiration. Coming to Buckley's unique look, which is an extremely crucial part to reimagine her role. It was a combined effort of the actor herself, Maggie, and makeup artist Nadia Stacey. The black tar-like formula that brought her back to life became a part of who she is now, somewhat acting as a mark of her newfound self, as well as a sign of a blemished death. The laboratory too was meant to give out a feminine aura. Designed by Karen Murphy, it has the chandelier filled with something like test tubes with the black formula inside. Everything is meant to focus on the bride's new body, stained but gorgeous nonetheless. Maggie chose the 30s particularly for the aesthetics and how the era was clad in fantasy movies. It was as if the entire time period was living in a dreamlike state, filled with equal parts monstrosity and affection. She further revealed that before we meet Frankenstein's monster, his loneliness pushes him to develop a parasocial relationship with a movie star, which helped him hide his face in the dark while being able to express the inherent sense of attachment. Now, I know it's hard to believe from the mayhem of the bride's trailer that is in fact a love story. Yep, Maggie's movie would show romantic and intimate moments between Bale's monster and Buckley's bride, and would reflect on the realities of relationships, the imperfections and brokenness that exist between a layer of pleasure. Frankenstein's creature knows he is a monster, and he beats unabashedly. However, every step he takes is shaky, as if the very ground would reject him. We can thus expect to see a Frankenstein's monster who is shattered and tired of being ostracized. He is ready to let his bride be her own person, but somewhere his toxicity might overshadow that. Look at the poster closely and tell me it doesn't feel suffocating. They are not held together by unconditional love. And that's exactly what Maggie is trying to convey. Relationships are seldom held together by pure affection. There are always suppressed negative emotions and flaws that, if examined too closely, can choke a person. That's where she's attempting to hit a nerve. This love story is supposed to resonate with any and every other. Time to let you in on casting details and Maggie's choice of using IMAX technology. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen for the first few seconds Penelope Cruz was on. She has always been a delight to watch, and needless to say that Cruz looks astonishing in her red coat and black hat attire. Maggie has also pulled in family members into this project. The mean-faced detective, Wiles, who is surely hiding a lot more than what it appears, is played by Peter Skarsgård, Maggie's husband. She wanted the character to give out a hot vibe whilst having a sinister shadow looming over him and unhesitantly turning to his partner. Okay, that's adorable. The woman wanted someone super hot and could think of none other than Peter. But that's not the only family connection we are going to see in this movie. I'm sure that Jake Gyllenhaal was too prominent a face to miss in the trailer. He is set to play a matinee idol in the movie, and the sibling duo is paired up again professionally after their time together in Donnie Darko. I am sure he would not let us down. Lastly, Maggie's choice of IMAX was not pre-planned. As it so happens, the director initially did not know much about IMAX, and it was actually her cinematographer Larry who sowed the seeds in her mind. Then she realised that IMAX would be the perfect way to capture what is going on in someone's mind or dreamlike state. See, Frankenstein's bride is a mythological concept, and no matter what, we cannot deny that. Thus, using spherical lenses to shoot vertically allowed Maggie to capture the magic that lies behind all the noisy and glittery facade. She went to IMAX and learnt that it would be the first time they would be animating a movie on a new and experimental scale. You go, girl. Alright guys, that's all for today. I am guiltlessly obsessing over the trailer and lost count of how many times I've watched it. Special shout out to Christian Bale, who ruled the industry long enough to go from DC hero to a Marvel villain and now a Gothic monster. Thankfully, the wait is not going to be long, and although they originally planned as a Netflix-only premiere, The Bride is now ready to launch on the silver screen in March the 6th. Let us know how hyped you are in the comments below. I'll see you at the next one. Bye-bye.